Hello students, your topic for today is disciplinary action and domestic inquiry. So let's understand what are the procedures for a disciplinary action. The disciplinary procedure involves the following steps. The first step is preliminary investigation. First of all, a preliminary inquiry should be held to find out whether a prima facie case of misconduct exists. Then there is a issue of charge sheet. After that, there are suspension of pending inquiries. So depending on the gravity of charges, an employee may be suspended along with serving him the charge sheet. The various circumstances which may warrant suspension of an individual are when disciplinary proceeding is pending or contemplated, when engaged in activities prejudicial to the interest or security of the state, where a case in respect of any criminal offence is under investigation, inquiry, or trial, where the continuance in office will prejudice investigation, inquiry, or trial, when the presence of the employee in office is likely to affect discipline, when his continuous presence in office is against the wider public interest, where a prima facie case has been established as a result of criminal or departmental proceedings leading to the conviction, revival, dismissal, etc. According to the Industrial Employment Act 1946, the suspended worker is to be paid subsistence allowance equal to one half of his wages for the first 90 days of suspension and three-fourths of the wages for the remaining period of suspensions if the delay in the completion of disciplinary proceeding is not due to the worker's own conduct. Then there is notice of inquiry. So in case the worker admits the charge in his reply to the charge sheet without any qualification, the employer can go ahead in awarding punishment without further inquiry. But if the worker does not admit the charge and the charge merits major penalty, then the employer must hold an inquiry to investigate into the charges. Proper and sufficient advance notice should be given to the employee indicating the date, time, and venue of the inquiry so that the worker may prepare his case. Then there is conduct of inquiry. So the inquiry should be conducted by an impartial and responsible officer. He should proceed in a proper manner and examine witnesses. Fair opportunity should be given to the worker to cross-examine the management witnesses. Then there are recordings of the findings. So on conclusion of the inquiry officer must record his findings and the reasons. Then there is awarding punishment. So the management should decide the punishment purely on the basis of findings of the inquiry, past record of the worker, and gravity of the misconduct. Then comes the communicating punishment. So the punishment awarded to the worker should be communicated to him in written and the earliest available opportunity. The letter of communication should contain reference to the charge sheet, the inquiry, and the findings. The date from which the punishment is to be effective should also be mentioned. Now let's understand domestic inquiry. So a domestic inquiry is an internal hearing held by an employer to ascertain whether an employee is guilty of misconduct. The purpose of domestic inquiry is to find out the truth of the allegations made against the workmen. So the industrial court, in the course of adjudicating whether a dismissal is without just cause or excuse within the context of Section 20 of the Industrial Relations Act 1967, does not merely examine whether there were proper grounds for the employer to terminate the services of the employee, but also examines whether the process by which the employee was terminated was fair or unfair. This is all. Then the domestic inquiry should be regarded by the employer as a mere formality, not an unnecessary inconvenience, but an integral part of the disciplinary process, whereby the employer can establish that the termination of the employee was with just cause of or excuse. The objective of holding a domestic inquiry is twofolded. Firstly, to give the opportunity to the employer to prove the charges of misconduct against a delinquent employee before punishment is meted out, and secondly, to give the employee the same opportunity, the sufficient opportunity to defend himself. Now, the definition for the term domestic inquiry is, it is based on the description of the that I have given for the domestic inquiry. It is used to refer to an inquiry into the charges of indiscipline and misconduct by an employee. What are the principles of domestic inquiry? The first principle is the rule of natural justice must be observed. The second is the delinquent is entitled to a just hearing. The third is he can call for his own evidence. Fourth is cross-examine any witness called by the prosecution. Fifth, where rules are laid down, the procedure of such rules must be followed. Sixth, disclose to the employee concerned the documents of records and offer him an opportunity to deal with it. Seventh, do not examine any witness in the absence of the employee. 8. The inquiry officer is at liberty to disallow any evidence after recording the reasons in writing. That's all. Thank you so much.